Welcome to my happy place. It's a little softer and like a little more playful, but still edgy. I'm really happy and grateful with where I am today. It's the Leah McSweeney Show. Welcome to the Leah McSweeney Show. Today, my guest is Kimberly Shannon Murphy. She has a book out called Glimmer, A Story of Survival, Hope, and Healing. I have read it. I told you when we first started, I was like, I had someone reach out to me or DM me because I posted this on Instagram, and they were like, I want to read it, but I'm scared. Yeah. And then when I started reading it, once I got a few pages in or whatever, maybe like several pages in, I like put it down and was like, I don't know if I'm in the mental state to read this. And then a few days later, I picked it back up like, no, I'm going to read it. And the way that you talk about your story, which we're going to get into, is in a way that is so as there's so many parts that are like horror, but it's in a way that's like you're taking this and talking about it with no shame and such a place of empowerment that it's not triggering or like voyeuristic feeling. I feel like I'm there with you in a way, like your healing journey, basically.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I wrote it like a film because that's how my brain sort of works. And I wrote it for survivors, so I didn't want it to be triggering for the people that I was writing it for, which is why I don't go into detail about my abuse.
Right.
It's there. You understand.
Detailed enough. I mean,
detailed enough.
But not gory.
No,
right.
I don't like talk about exactly what happened to me, but you still understand the gravity of how bad it was.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be a vehicle for people like me and for them not to be afraid to pick it up.
Yeah.
That was the whole point.
And before we started recording, I was like, am I allowed to say the word incest? do people still use that word? And then you said that there's a new phrase, which you can't even.
I can't pronounce. I mean, I can pronounce it sometimes. It's intergenerational familial abuse. Right. I just say incest because that's what I've always known it to be. So, and it's also just one word instead of 17.
And your mom and your aunt also went through the same abuse. And I love the way that you, like when you talk about like when you met your husband and he was like kind of protective or like kind of being like, why didn't your mom like protect you, And the way that you're able to kind of like to talk about your relationship with your mom and like you have so much compassion for her and what she went through instead of like kind of being angry at her for like not making sure it didn't happen to you too. It's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, we've definitely had the angry parts too. I feel like it kind of splits, and still now to this day, it's not one of those things where I don't feel angry at her sometimes or feel that she wasn't there for me, because she wasn't at the end of the day. Neither one of my parents, but she was a victim too. And also she's really open to talking to me, and we've done a lot of therapy together and we've done a lot of work together, which makes a difference. And she actually cares, which makes a difference and has been helpful. But I definitely have gone through stages of anger with my mom. I don't think that you can go through that and not have those feelings. Of course.
How many hours of therapy do you think you've had?
I just don't know.
It's like so many.
It's so many. And it's a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's like
but it's worked, obviously. You've healed. Is it something that you like? Because sometimes I think, and look, I was actually telling my sister today too. I was telling her about your book. I was telling her about you. I was like, I think that we've been maybe misusing the word trauma. I don't think that we have it actually. And I know like we shouldn't compare our traumas, but like how can I not, how can I not? It actually must kind of annoy you when like some people are talking about trauma and it's like, bitch, your cat died. Like, like, what are you talking about? Like,
well, I think
it's a word that's so used now.
It is. Right? It totally is. It is. Like, but there's also, Dr. Gabor Mate, who endorsed my book, who's become a great friend, and I adore him.
And is a huge, like, deal. Huge deal.
Like, he is trauma. Like, not himself, but like, he is the speaker of trauma.
Right.
I see him as. He calls them capital T and lowercase t traumas. So like it's kind of like people with capital T trauma is, I would say, me.
Yes.
And then there's the lowercase t trauma.
Yeah.
So he sort of, does that. And it's really interesting. and I think I say this in my book too, one of the first things he said to me when we spoke was, Kim, your first trauma was not actually your sexual abuse. Your first trauma was that you had no adult support in your life, because the abuse would have never happened if you did. And I was like, thanks for that. Now I'm going to have more therapy.
Right.
Because now you just like brought a whole new thing to light. And now, I'm going to have to dig through that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you've been doing press for the book and stuff, because when I did press for my book, I felt like I had some people that were like, oh, you were what was the mental hospital like? Like almost like it was like, are people kind of like trying to, because I feel like sexual abuse and like incest and pedophilia and everything that this is something that our culture is kind of fucking obsessed with. Like we're obsessed in a way where it's like, right, like in an exploitative way almost, like in terms of like podcasts, just like murder podcasts too. You know what I mean? But like, do you feel like people treat you differently now that you've been so open about what you've gone through? Or
yeah, it's been interesting. I had like my first internet kind of attack happen. I wouldn't say attack, but it felt like that to me, probably because I was just extremely triggered, and it was my own stuff. I had done a podcast, and I had said in the podcast how they'll take a clip. So, and then everyone judges about the clip.
Right.
So the clip was me saying that I don't believe in forgiveness, that there are some things that are not forgivable. Like I don't forgive my grandfather for what he did to me.
Of course.
I don't think I need to. All of my doctors don't agree with me and, say I don't need to forgive in order to heal.
That sounds healthy.
And it was amazing how many people were like, this poor girl, like this is so sad, and she has no joy in her life, and I just felt like I needed to answer all of like the 1,000 comments that there were. It was so frustrating to me, but I realized in that moment too, like I'm obviously being really triggered by people telling me that I'm a certain way
and healing wrong or something,
and like not doing things right. And by the way, I don't think we ever like come to this space where we're like, I'm totally healed, and like I've arrived, and I can now tell everybody how to be, and it's an ever growing journey, and it's not the same for everybody.
No.
And some people need to forgive to move on, or they think and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think that it actually isn't healthy. And
Same.
Ironically, I did a live with one of my doctors a few days later, and I asked her on the live like what her feeling was. And she said that there's actually studies now, like scientific studies that are coming out suggesting that if you forgive somebody that is continuously hurting you, it is actually really bad for your mental health.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it made sense to me.
Completely.
And then I was like, see, to everybody who I don't know.
It's crazy when people think that they get to have a fucking say in like how you deal with your own capital T trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
I need to go find that and drag all those people. I'm going to look on your Instagram and do that. Sorry.
It was like a real thing.
Me off.
It really made me frustrated because I'm like, first of all, I know none of you've read my book.
Right.
You haven't even probably listened to the whole episode of this thing.
Yeah.
You're taking a 15-second clip and you're judging me. Meanwhile, one of the people who made a comment was someone who had a lot of followers. So as soon as he did that, like
those people.
70 people just like piggybacked on him. And, he's like a spiritual, because you can write anything under anything under your Instagram. He's like a spiritual awakener or like whatever the heck he calls himself. And I was just like, and this is who you claim to be, and you're going to like blast me on Instagram?
Fraud, whoever you are. You're a fuckboy. You're a fuckboy fraudster.
And you have no idea as to my story whatsoever. And if you really cared, you would have just messaged me personally and said like, hey,
yeah,
like, I don't know, something just more kind.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah.
I really loved, like, there were certain things that I really just like admire you so much for. Like, when you were talking about your friendship with Cameron Diaz, because I'll tell my listeners now, you're a Hollywood stunt woman. You're fucking epic, iconic, amazing. And you met Cameron, through doing this kind of work, and you and her became friends. And like, I guess when you talk about like, when do you tell people, like, right? Like who you are, because it's part of who you are, right? Like you can't like pretend like it didn't happen or something. And you gave her your books to read, your journal stuff, and I was just like, oh God.
Yes. It was kind of during the time where I feel like I just was sort of talking about it maybe a little bit too much, because I just wasn't getting the help that I needed at that time in my life. And so I feel like I was just kind of like diarrhea of the mouth sort of thing. Like, and also I think there was a part of me that felt like I need you to know this before you're friends with me, because maybe you won't want to be friends with me if you know that like how fucked up I am. Like that's how I think I felt back then.
Right.
I don't think in the moment I realized that that's what I was doing, but I think that's what I was doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like how amazing that she like read it and she was like, like had an open heart.
She did.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, when you were talking about like dating people, because you had these flashbacks that turn in, like you could just look at one thing, or it could be a time of day or whatever, and you're brought back to when you're 8 years old.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, so does that still happen?
Sometimes.
Yeah. But your husband now,
Casey.
Yes. Yeah. Like I loved reading about you and his relationship and like how it was building, and you telling him and him just being so supportive of you.
Yes.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
He's like one of those really like possibly an alien person. That,
what is that?
Like possibly an alien
Right,
person.
got it.
When I met him, actually, I said to Cameron, I said, okay, so either he's like a really great guy or he's going to kill me in my sleep.
Yeah, like a sociopath. Totally,
Like
right.
it's either one. Like, and she's like, I don't think he's a sociopath. Kim. I'm like, I'm actually not sure yet. But if I die,
he
killed me.
We also have some like parallel. I obviously like loved reading about you moving to New York, and you were a dancer. You started as a dancer. This is how you became, a stunt woman. Am I saying that right? A stunt woman?
Yeah.
Or how,
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
But we were at the same clubs.
Yeah. I wonder if we were ever there at the same time.
We were. I mean, I'm sure you were obviously not only at Shelter. Also, you were probably. What other clubs were you going to?
Body and Soul,
Dance
Ritual. Did you ever
was
go
always at Vinyl, right?
Yes.
Shelter was at Vinyl too, no? Or no,
Yes.
Shelter was
Yes.
its own thing. Yeah,
No, it was
Shelter
there.
and Body and Soul. Yes, I absolutely went. I mean, I also told you that my tequila incident, the reason why I could never drink tequila was because I think in like 11th grade or something like that. I don't know. Like I walked all the way from like a friend's house on the Upper West Side all the way down to Vinyl, which was in Tribeca. And I had a bottle of cheap tequila. Literally, we walked like 100 blocks. And I just kept drinking it. By the time I got to Vinyl, I had drank the whole bottle of tequila and the room was spinning and I was like throwing up in the garbage can. I had to get dragged out. How embarrassing.
Oh my God.
I know. And the next day I had such bad alcohol poisoning. And like my friend's mom came into the room and was like, "Are you okay, honey?" And I was like, "No," like shaking. But we definitely went to some of the same clubs. And that was a great era.
It was.
And the ecstasy was so good back then.
It was awesome.
Like, I don't know what the fuck these kids are doing now. This new Molly shit. It's not double stacked Mitsubishis.
What are they doing?
I don't know. They're doing some fake ecstasy.
Is like just a mixture of stuff?
It's just, I don't know. 'Cause when I had my relapse for a year, I did try some. And it's just not it. I'm like, I'm fucked up for a half hour. This is not like the ecstasy back then. You'd be high for like 24 hours or something. And you were like, it was the best feeling in the world for like 12 hours. The come down wasn't great.
No.
But this shit is like child's play.
Oh, interesting.
No, we lived through some good. We got to like.
Those were some good times.
Those were some good fucking times.
Good times.
They really were.
I definitely utilized them.
Oh, yeah. No, I did too. And also you talk about dating the owner of Vinyl.
Yeah.
Which is iconic.
I doubt I was the only one who was dating the owner. Actually, I know I was not the only one dating the owner of Vinyl.
Is he still around?
He is. He is in the book, so I had to get his okay, obviously, because he's in his world. He's like a prominent person.
Absolutely.
And he was really open and great about it. But
sweet.
Yeah. So, and with that said, I think during that time, I think everyone was just dating everyone. I don't know that
I'm curious how your like the abuse you went through, like, and how it shaped you as a person, like how it's shaped you as a mother, and how does it impact you? Because that's what I kept thinking about too. And you have a daughter, and I have a daughter, and I know that things I went through that shaped me. I think about now with my daughter and how I am as a parent.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's been really hard, especially it took me 3 years from like start to finish with the book. And she was 6 when I started probably. And just looking at her at that age in such a safe, loving space and just thinking about what was happening to me at that age was like a big mind fuck for me. Like that was really difficult for me to just kind of digest that these horrific things were happening to me when she's, so innocent and so young and sweet. And so
it gives you another perspective on your own life.
Yes, which is when the anger bits come in. That's why I say like I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to say I'm healed, and I don't know that I want to. I think it's just it's not a logical space to be in when you've been through something so difficult. I think there's layers to it that you keep unpeeling, and yes, you get better, and then some days are worse, and then you're really good for a long time. And then I do something like this, which obviously brought up a lot of stuff.
Oh my God.
And it's something I've always wanted to do, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't like the hardest thing I've ever done. And
and how hard was it?
It was, a lot of my family walked away from me when they found out I was writing the book. And then I walked away from a lot of my family while I was writing the book, because seeing your words on paper and reading them and realizing like, oh God, this is like my life. This is crazy. It was just different than having it inside, if that makes sense.
Is your grandmother still alive?
God, no. She took way too long to die. I was like, how is this bitch still alive?
Right.
Like for real.
Did you hate her?
Oh my God. She was a horrible woman.
She's a horrible person.
Narcissistic, horrible woman. Totally knew what her husband was doing. Never did anything to stop him. She was just a very shallow, as long as like we all looked good, everything was fine. Nothing. The inside stuff didn't matter.
Right.
And I tried with her too. I brought her to therapy actually with me. And I don't know if this is in the book or not, but I had asked her, I think it is in the book. I had asked her, because in my 20s when I was really struggling and I was trying to put myself through therapy and trying to like work through everything, I brought her to therapy with me. And she's like, well, surprisingly, she came. And she said to my therapist, well, I don't even know what Kimberly what she wants from me. And my therapist said, well, maybe it would be helpful if you helped pay for her therapy because she's struggling and she's trying to go to school. That is in the book.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And my grandma said, like, I don't know why she'd want his money when she's saying all these things about him. And
I don't think that part's in the book.
Yeah. And so that was like my try with her. And then the whole scene in the book where like we all talked to her.
Right.
And then that was the last time I actually really talked to her.
When you and your mom and Pat went there, right?
Yeah. But it took her like 30 years to die after that. Like I was in my 20s and she just died. Like I had my daughter when she died. Wow. So like she died like 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe. She like held on. I was like, how can you live with yourself? Like for real.
Probably scared to go to hell. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
No, I mean, it's
I'm angry for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's crazy. So when I went with my book, when I did my audio, did you do your own?
I couldn't.
Oh my God. Yeah, better. Yeah. Because honestly, when I did mine, and just talking about, I had a lot of like drug like use as a teenager and whatever. And reading it out loud was like so depressing. Like I'm like, damn, I really fucked my life up with drugs. Like this is really hard. Like why am I even telling people this?
Right.
Like why am I even doing this? Like that's how I felt, And obviously now people reach out and people, it's had a positive impact on people, right? And that makes it better. But I was gutted after reading it out loud. It was the hardest part of the whole process. So it's better that you maybe didn't.
One of my actresses read it for me, which was great. Yeah. And then she, like, jokingly, but called me like the second, took her 2 days to do or 3 days to do it. And she called me after and she's like hysterically crying. She's like, I fucking hate you. I love you. I hate you.
She's like, now I need therapy. Like,
she's like, okay. Yeah. I mean, but she did amazing, but there's no way I was going to put a tech through that. It would have taken me probably like 4 months. I tried to read it alone in my room out loud and I couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, this isn't going to go well if I try to do this myself. But hearing her read it, that was a whole other level of like hearing someone read your story about you. That was a whole other level of, I felt like I was listening to somebody else's life.
Right. Does your daughter know?
She knows a little bit because unfortunately there was a situation in the family that happened that she was left out of. And because of that, she thought it was like her fault. Like, what did I do, Mom? What, all I want to do is see my cousins. Like she, hysterically crying. And I'm just like, that was the moment when I decided to walk away from my family, the people that hadn't already walked away from me, because I was seeing the pain for her for something that was not her fault. And just because my family isn't,
wait, you guys were left out of it because you wrote the book?
Because nobody wanted me there.
Because of the book. And then she took it personally like it was her fault.
Yes, correct.
Oh.
And so it was a really difficult, sad moment for her. Yeah. And I realized in that moment that the trauma was like bleeding out on her. Not in a sexual abuse way, but in a different way. And that she was being pained and hurt by unhealed adults, basically. And so I just said to her, thank God my husband was there, because I can get like too truthy, because I grew up in such like a secretive
me too.
Life. Yeah. So like I'm an over truthful person. Right. So my husband's like reins me in, and he just said to her, she's like, I want an example, Mommy. Like, I want an example of what you're talking about. And I was like, oh God. And he said to her, you know how Mommy and Daddy's number one job is to protect you? And she said, yes. And he said, Mommy wasn't protected when she was a kid.
Oh God.
Yeah. And she's like, well, who hurt you, Mom? And she calls my mom Mina. And I said, Mina's dad did. And sorry, when I talk about her, it's emotional for me. Yeah. And she just said to me, did he hurt you with his hands or did he hurt your heart? And I just said both.
She's so smart.
So smart. And she hugged me, and that was that. And in that moment, I realized, like, the truth is so fucking easy. Like, it's so much easier to tell the truth. Like, I grew up in such a lie where one lie had to be covered up by another lie, by another lie, by another lie. And so when I said it to her in that way, and she was able to just accept it for what it was, and, run in the living room and go do what she was doing, play with her dolls, I was like, yes, there's pain. Life is like, it's a part of life is pain. So I'm not going to pretend to her that I'm perfect and that I had this perfect life and that I'm going to be this perfect mom, because it's not realistic. It's
not real.
And
Perfection is not real.
No. And we all have our own stories, and like, our kids will all be in therapy.
Well, oh, exactly. And I'm so glad you're talking about this, and you're so like honest, and I'm going to share this with you. I've never really talked about this publicly, but my daughter last year when she was 15, we were like on the couch one day, and she was just like, have you ever had a guy do anything like creepy to you? And I'm like a boyfriend or something? Like, when she was, no, like at a party, maybe, like, did someone ever like grab your butt or something? And I was like, oh, like, I'm thinking to myself, well, she's 15. I was 15 when I was raped. Like, is this when I tell her? Because like, she's the age it was when it happened to me. And she's asking me. She's like literally asking me. And I told her. And I was like, well, yeah, I actually was like sexually assaulted like when I was your age. And I told her the story, and I had fallen asleep at a party, and I woke up and someone was having sex with me, and whatever. And she, at that time, and I think it was the right time to tell her because she was 15 and an appropriate age. And, not like a cautionary tale. I obviously don't blame myself, even though I did for a lot of years. Like I shouldn't have fallen asleep at a party with strangers and blah, 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 But that's like what I needed to tell myself to kind of
Yeah.
But it's fucked up with daughters because it's like, I don't want her to judge me. I don't want her to see me as tainted or but this is life. Things have happened and this is how it goes. And she will definitely be in therapy, my daughter. And I mean, I want her to be in therapy right now, but she's refusing to go. And being pregnant even and I had so much shame about being a drug addict when I was a teenager and whatever. And I was like, how am I gonna let her know who I am? That was a worry. How will I be myself to my daughter? I'm gonna be a mother, so I need to be perfect, and I can't do this and I can't do that. And it's nope, still Leah, just a mom, but still Leah.
Yeah,
making mistakes. Yeah. Did you feel that way when you were pregnant too? Were you worried about yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. I remember seeing moms out with their babies after I had my daughter.
Yeah.
Baby was brand new. I'm
Right.
I was under my bed after I had her. It was it was so difficult for me because I just had so much fear around before she got her voice. That was very hard for me.
Oh my God.
Because I was
What if
she doesn't have a voice, so she can't tell me anything. So we can't have a conversation. So if something, so I literally was it probably was partly
never let her out of your sight, I'm sure.
no, I have a really big shower, and I put her stroller in the shower with me, and I would leave the shower door open, and I would take a cold shower just so that I could watch her breathe. That's how crazy I was in the beginning, because I was I don't deserve her. She's clearly going to die. I don't deserve to have anything that I have. I went through that a lot in my life. I didn't ever, and I talk about this in the book, I never pictured a future for myself at all. It was survival all the time. And then when I met my husband and we have this beautiful home and then we have this child and all this stuff, and I'm it's all going to be taken, that voice in your head, it's all going to be taken away from me because I don't deserve it, because from a very young age, I was told that I didn't deserve to, be here.
Right. Sorry. I'm taking it all. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I think you did absolutely the right thing with your daughter.
Thank you.
And I think that the more honest we are with our kids about the stuff because look, that could save her.
Right.
One day. Not saying that, I'm just saying in general,
exactly.
I don't think us trying to keep things from our, obviously when it's appropriate for them age wise and the dialogue that we use, but I don't understand the whole which is we have one sister in the book. I have 3 sisters, but we use one sister. I knew 2 of them did not want to be a part of the book, so we kind of used one, and it was just sort of a person there. We didn't really even go into details about her, but a lot of my sisters feel that they will never tell their children. Sorry, guys, because unfortunately, there's a book now, so there's that.
Right.
But I feel I wrote it partly for the children too, for them, because I know they're going to grow up and going to be confused at some point as to why their moms were certain ways, because we grew up with such trauma. Yeah. There's no way that it doesn't bleed out into your parenting.
There's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way it doesn't. And the kids will always wonder.
Yeah. And because they're kids, they think it's them.
Yeah, they take it on, and they take it on them as them.
What am I doing that's making my mom upset or making my mom act this way? And so then they become empaths because they're forced to read a room or read their parents because they're always in this hostile, situation or feeling. And so, everyone talks so highly about, you're an empath. It's no, I just grew up with psychotic parents, and I had to read a room so I didn't get,
You could probably be a therapist at this point.
I mean, I hate school, so I like if I could skip. I actually became a therapist in one of my journeys when I was on drugs. I actually graduated Harvard when I was on MDMA.
It was like, oh god.
Yeah, I like graduated
Did you
myself.
tell everyone that, like at the club or
I
something?
told my doctor. Well, so because I did journeys, like in the end of the book, we talk.
Right.
I do like the MDMA and mushrooms.
Oh wait, I still have like 20 pages left.
Okay, so you haven't got there yet.
Oh my god, how did I? Wow, hold on a second. This is so interesting.
Yes.
Is this how you're healing?
Yeah.
With MDMA?
Yeah.
I want to do that with my mom.
You want to do it together?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I think she needs it.
Do it by yourself first.
I feel like she needs it more than me. That might be codependent, but like I feel like it's the only way me and her are going to have a fucking breakthrough. This bitch needs MDMA.
Some doctors do couple. When I say couples, I mean two people together.
Yeah.
My doctor does.
Okay, so you're doing MDMA and what else?
So I've done 4 journeys now and about to do my 5th one in August. And my first 3 were just MDMA. And Gabor was the one who
is facilitating.
Like he suggested it to me. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Because to me, I'm thinking to myself,
Right,
like,
you're thinking shelter days.
I'm like, I'm going to like get naked and jump in the pool.
Exactly.
That's inappropriate.
Same.
Like, yeah.
Like when I get fucked up, I want to get naked and jump in a pool.
Like Gabor is like, you should really think about doing, doing this kind of work because it's really helping people like all PTSD, like all over the world. And I'm like, oh no, I've done. And he's like, it's not like that. Anyway, I watched his documentary. It's called The Wisdom of Truth, I believe. I could be wrong about that. It's in the book, and at the very end, it's mostly about addiction. But at the very end,
I need to read this
you would benefit so much from talking to him. He's amazing because he works a lot with addicts. Like that's how he started, was with addicts.
Oh, wow.
And he's just like a gift. He's such a gift.
Because I am wondering what he thinks about addicts using, because I always said if I have another bout of depression the same way I had a year and a half ago, I'm not doing any more psych meds. I'm doing ketamine therapy.
Yeah. So
I'm done with psych.
I'm doing a ketamine retreat actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I watched this documentary and at the end, he worked with this guy why am I spacing on what the word is? I'm calling it a journey, but it's called something else, and psychedelics. Thank you, Kim. Psychedelics. And he cured him. Like he was like stage 5 cancer dying. And he started doing psychedelics with him. And the man was cured. Like he had it.
Cancer?
Yeah.
What?
Like he had a death sentence. Like it's crazy. I'll find it and I'll send it to you so that you can watch it. And it's just the very end clip. And most of it's about addiction in Canada because they have like a lot of problems in Canada.
It's crazy up there.
So I did it. So I reached back out to him. I said, okay, I think I'm going to try it. And he hooked me up with a doctor in LA and she came to my house and we did it.
I feel like it's very LA. I'm not sure if they do that MDMA stuff. And I heard about
They do it here.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. I have friends who do.
We'll talk. Okay.
But I did it and it was not like that at all.
Right. You weren't like,
no,
some techno music.
No, not at all. I was like, you do therapy the month before. Mm-hmm. So you do like 5 therapy sessions and you come up with intentions of what you want this journey to look like. And my first intention was I want, to connect with my inner child because for so long I was like so angry with her. And I had like such this disconnect.
When you talk about that in the book, I fucking relate to that so much because I've had so many therapists. Like I bought myself a little teddy bear last year and she was so active, the inner child. She's and it's like my 9-year-old self and my 15-year-old self. Those are the two that live inside me.
Okay.
And the young one though, I have a lot of like I'm like, oh, you're so pathetic. Like stop being so needy.
Yeah. That will help you. That coupled with IFS therapy has changed my life. That's internal family systems.
Oh, I've heard about that too.
Dr. Schwartz started that, and there's so many therapists that do it. I do it with him. Mm-hmm. I think he feels bad for me, probably. But no, he's amazing. He's amazing. But they work with like exactly that, parts of you. So like your 9-year-old part and your 15-year-old part that for whatever reason you have these feelings about. Something happened when you were 9, something happened when you were 15.
Yep, exactly.
That kind of stunted
That's it.
those. So when you're triggered from those spaces, you react from a 9-year-old space and a 15-year-old space instead of a adult
41-year-old space.
Yes.
Almost 41.
Yes. Which is completely common.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's changed my life. I like met my, like as soon as I like dropped in, and it wasn't, was laying down the whole time. I didn't even get up. I was just like so in it, and I had so many memories.
Is it like a capsule or like a?
Yes.
Okay, and then so you take it. You come up with the intentions. You're in your home, which is probably nice because you feel safe there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You take the capsule. It probably kicks in 20 minutes or something, right? And then what?
And then the first time I just did that, and then did mushrooms after that with it, coupled with it, which was really intense because it's crazy when people haven't done the experience because they're like, even my husband, he supports me, but he's like, okay, Kim.
He's like, this isn't.
I was like, no, I saw myself being born. Like I saw myself in my mother's womb.
Oh my God. My friend said this happened to him when he did ayahuasca.
It's crazy. It's nuts. Like I was in my mother's womb. I could feel her. I could feel the stress on her.
Oh my God.
And I could feel me feeling like I couldn't wait to get out. And then I saw myself being born. And it's crazy because I, like, of course, right away emailed Gabor and I was like, oh my gosh, this happened. And he said, go to page whatever in his book, The Myth of Normal. And he speaks about that, about how when we're pregnant, that our babies are like the emotional is coming out onto them.
Wow.
And
of course, that makes sense though, right?
Yeah, complete sense.
So how long are you, is the therapist is like at your house with you talking to you while this is happening? Or you're just not really talking because you're like going through it?
I talk a lot, and then sometimes I'll be silent for a while. It's hard to time, like time doesn't really exist when you're kind of doing it, but it's a 6-7 hour situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is it helped?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went through like a really long period of my life where I didn't want, I got to a place where I was like, okay, I get it. I was abused. I'm so sick of having memories. I don't want to remember anything more. Like I'm done. I just want to move on.
Right?
And it doesn't work like that. So through doing those journeys, I've had so many more memories. And so I've been able to really understand like the gravity of what was done to me. And I remember so much more now, which has been hard in the sense of like now I have to sort of deal with that and look at that, but also really great in the sense of understanding myself better and deeper and like, okay, why?
And that's where the power probably comes from.
Yeah.
Is understanding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like I'm terrified of the ocean. Like I have this thing with the ocean, never could understand why. And then in one of my journeys, I had a memory of him trying to kill me with a pillow. And I was like trying to like find air. And when I came out of it, I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm afraid of losing my breath.
Right.
So that's why like being underwater or like not being able to breathe is super scary for me.
Wow. Tell me about the ketamine retreat.
I don't know. I'm going in September.
Where is it?
Dr. Schwartz is doing it.
Where?
It's in the Redwoods.
I'm like, can I come? Like,
yeah, you totally can come.
is this like a group ketamine?
Yeah, it's like 26 people go. It's like a 3-day thing. And
It's a
it's
journey.
the first time I've ever done it. Yeah.
I think I need to do it. I really do.
And the last journey I did MDMA, mushrooms, and ketamine.
Intravenous ketamine or spray?
I snorted it, which I've actually never done coke.
Snorted powder?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They had you actually sniff the,
Yes.
not the like air stuff.
But they do it differently with people who have had addiction problems for that reason.
Sniff powder.
Yeah, for that
I'd be
reason.
like, "Mm."
Yeah, for that exact reason. So I know there's different ways to do it.
Look, I know sober women who are doing ketamine therapy, who have tried different antidepressants that have not helped, you know, and this is not, I'm not like medication shaming or anything. I like am on antidepressants. I'll probably like never go off of them. But yeah, there's only so much you can, it's putting a Band-Aid on the thing, you know, it's like, no, I don't just need my panic attacks like to be subdued. I want to figure out why the fuck I'm having them. What is causing them? What is causing me to feel terror to the point that I feel like I can't breathe?
Do you feel like you really dealt with what happened to you when you were 15?
No.
Yeah.
I really don't, actually.
So that's why you.
But I also like can't get like I can't feel feelings about it. Like I'm like, whatever. I was like, the other weird thing is that I used to be like, well, I was drunk and I was drinking, and now I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't. I had actually just gotten out of rehab like a month before that and was sober when it happened, which is wild. And then I didn't want to tell the girl whose house it happened at. She was like a senior in high school and I was a sophomore, and she was like crying and she was like, please don't tell your mom, like, because I had underage people like drinking here and like and I felt like she babysat my sister sometimes and my brother, so I didn't want to like mess up like my mom's like view of her. And I also felt like my parents would just like blame me somehow, you know, and so I didn't tell them until like maybe a year later. Like I had a therapist like maybe that told me to like say something to them, but they weren't like, no offense mom and dad, but they just didn't like, I don't remember getting any support from them about it. Like I did feel like it was my fault, you know. And then for years I was just like, whatever, I was raped, who cares, it happens to everyone, you know. I was kind of just like irreverent about it, like, you know. And like I was like, well, it wasn't like I was in an alleyway and got, you know, I was at a party, I had been making out with the guy earlier, so I kind of was teasing him, and you know, I didn't get punched, you know, or whatever, like making it like, even now, like, yeah, I'm just kind of like, you know, making a joke about it. I have never cried over it. I just
Really?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't even like, actually maybe a couple years ago, I went through some weird thing where I started Googling his name because I know it. Like, I remember it.
Okay.
And like, I'm like, where is he? Like, what is he doing? Does he remember it? Like, did he do it to other people? Does he have a kid? Does he have a daughter? Like,
interesting.
What, like, you know, but I just can't feel feelings about it. I just don't. Like,
well,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, which probably isn't healthy.
Well, it's probably where your panic attacks are coming from.
Wow.
I would say. I mean, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah,
I mean, I did become one. I did.
Right, you did,
True
exactly.
story. I didn't,
Harvard graduate.
but I didn't get it.
To.
I don't have a diploma.
I was like, you have fucking, no, you have like life experience though.
Yeah.
You know, fuck a diploma.
Doesn't mean like I should be listened to, but I do feel like I do feel like the times where I've tried to do that with my things, like certain memories that have come up that have been really intense.
Yeah.
And tried to rationalize them, or, you know, it's such an easy thing to say like, oh, I know it's not my fault.
Right.
But you know, as we know now, like the body and the brain are so connected and our nervous system is so connected. And so you can say, you know, oh, I know it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you actually believe it.
So this is also fucking crazy, but I'm just like feeling so open with you. The trip I took to Thailand for Ultimate Girls Trip, there was a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that like was going down. And I like, when I got back, I like texted my therapist and was like, that was worse than being raped.
Wow.
Yeah. It's something about having like my power taken away from me, or like, you know,
feeling out of control,
like being in a foreign country, like having like things go on that I haven't, you know, that one day I'll talk about at, you know, in Thailand. But yeah. And like, yeah, maybe it is. I don't know. Like, I don't, yeah, but it does have to, it does manifest through my nervous system and like panic and stuff. Like, it's crazy. Like my body, like, I'm like, okay, wait, I'm not like mentally like thinking about anything stressful, but I feel like I can't breathe. My hands are going numb. You know, I feel like I'm going to die, you know, or whatever. Like I have crazy, weird nervous system shit.
Well, there's also like body memories too. Yeah. Have you heard of those?
No.
Where like your body physically remembers what happened to you, but your brain doesn't. Like, so I had that for a really long time, which is like exactly what you're describing.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
because you're not able to like come to terms with it yet for whatever reason.
Well, I'm also just like, it's not that, like, I just say like, it's not that big of a deal. Like I was, you know, like, I'm like, every girl like happens.
I'm gonna tell
I
you,
mean, this sounds crazy.
it's
but
a big deal.
It is a big deal, I guess. Yeah.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be joining you in the Redwoods with Dr.
Well, but it makes sense. Like you were like not validated by your friend because your friend was like, don't tell any, like, don't, made it about her.
Right.
And then you told your parents and you didn't feel.
And my drug use, by the way, got so much worse. And my drinking got so much worse after that happened, you know? And also like just acting out sexually like crazy. The only person that actually fucking validated me was my boyfriend at the time, because I had a boyfriend who was so much older than me. He was 17. He was 7 years older than me. So I was 15 and he was 22. And which in hindsight, I guess it's kind of weird, but he was really fucking angry. He was really angry. He was like punching his car. Like he was so upset and not angry at me, but you know, he was so angry that it happened to me. And he like called like the college that the guy went to. He called the college radio station and was like, so-and-so is a rapist, like live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, felt like, wow, okay, someone cares, you know?
Yeah.
But the other fucked up thing, to go back to daughters and stuff, my daughter just had her 16th birthday. And my mom was there and like my aunt and whatever. And I was kind of joking at the end of the night. And I was like, my sweet 16 was, you know, shut down by the cops. I was on GHB and drinking and with my boyfriend who was turning 23. And my mom was like, don't you even joke about that. I'm like, I get to joke about it because it was my life, you know? But when I think about my daughter, I'm looking at my daughter like, imagine her having a 23-year-old boyfriend being sexually active, which she is not, I don't think. And I'm like, this is like fucking, I was already like raped at that age and sniffing crystal meth. Like, it's like, what? Like now I see my daughter, just like you see your daughter. You're like, these horrible things were happening to me at this, she's a baby. You know, she can't protect herself. Like, you know, I look at my daughter too. At 16, my life was in fucking shambles. And I think, holy shit, my daughter actually like values herself. And I did not. And it's a mind fuck.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when someone takes advantage of your body.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you completely disconnect and then you start using coping mechanisms to help you feel better so you don't have to think about it.
Totally.
It's super fun.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a blast. I always wanted to do ecstasy again.
Now you'll be with the doctor.
I knew I was onto something back in the 90s. It was helping. It was helping somehow. It probably was.
It takes your fight. I mean, at least, and I'll tell you, like the one that they use is like comes from a lab. It's like so pure. So
right. It's like not like
the real deal. No, it's not at all.
How does it feel afterwards? Do you feel depressed afterwards? Like
no. The ketamine helps with that actually. And then they give you like serotonin to take after.
Right, because it depletes all that shit. Oh, that's this is the real deal.
Yeah.
They're not like letting you like depressed for a day afterwards.
They give you like watermelon, which is helpful.
Oh,
and
great.
like and the serotonin is really helpful. Like the next day you definitely feel like groggy and stuff, but it's not like it was.
It's not like 1998 groggy.
No. It's not like your like back is in pain and you feel like you're gonna like it's not like that.
Wow. This is so interesting. Okay, I'm gonna be bothering you for the New York people.
Yeah,
because like
totally.
I'm ready to do this.
Yeah,
and it's interesting also when you say like, you don't ever heal completely. I fucking agree with you with that. It's like we are who we are. The things that happened to us shaped us. We can try our best and we can like figure out better coping mechanisms and we can like be as healthy as we can be. But like, you're not ever forgetting this shit. No, I'm not ever forgetting my things. We're not ever going to forget our things.
No. And I think it's really, you know, with the world we live in, like with social media and everything, it's so easy for people to A, label themselves as something, B, come across as something.
Yeah.
We don't know who these people are that we think are like these, you know, most amazing spirits that like are just, you know, saving lives, you know. Yes, some of them are like the Gabors and people like that who are legitimately, but also I'll say with him too, he's like very much open and he, you know, he has his stuff too and he talks about it openly, which is what I love about him as well. It's like yeah, he still has things that he goes through or feels and that he still has to deal with. And I think that that's super important to,
Yes.
not come across to the world. I don't want to come across to the world that I'm, that like I wrote this book and now like I'm just like a perfectly healed woman who's going to raise her kid and everything's going to be beautiful. It's not
Life's messy.
it's not realistic. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's important for doctors, because sometimes you have, I can get God complexes. I had a total God complex with a psychiatrist. My first hospital stay, he was the head of the place, and I also had a huge crush on him. But I think that was the Nightingale syndrome thing. Like you fall in love with your person who helps you or something. I don't know, but you can get a God complex with psychiatrists and stuff, with
Yes.
doctors. Period.
Yes.
But especially a psychiatrist, you think, God, they probably have it all together.
Oh yeah.
They just must have it all figured out. Their families are so perfect. Well, guess what? My mom's a therapist.
And 90% of them are a hot mess.
Oh, 1,000.
Yeah.
1,000.
It's very difficult to find a good one. Not that
so
they don't
hard.
exist.
Yeah, but it's so hard.
It's so hard. And the hardest part about that is when you're seeking for it or needing it or searching for it, you don't want to go to 20.
Right.
It's hard enough to go to 1.
Yeah. And you have to spill your guts.
Yeah.
No.
And then be like, okay, you're not for me. Let me try again. It's like, no, you're traumatized. You just want to find the right person and like go and move forward. And just unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Have you been getting, well, first of all, also this, like you gave a statistic about like how many people have dealt with like sexual abuse from family members, I
Yes.
feel like in your book. I could not believe how, but it's something people don't want to fucking talk about, right? So it's like, but it is really kind of, I'm not going to say rampant, but like it happens way more often than we think.
90% of children that are abused are abused
from
by
their
family members or somebody the family knows. Which is why my daughter will never have a sleepover.
Really? Yeah. Never.
I mean, when she gets like older, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't blame you.
But then, like that's my whole point about being honest with her about who I am. Because
What if it's a family that you know and you trust, though?
I mean, I think I'll probably get there one day.
will.
I mean,
you will,
she's
too.
still young,
Yeah,
so it's
she
hard for me to say that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like
That must be terrible. It must
it's
be like a
yeah,
terror to feel that.
Yeah, because it takes 1 second to ruin a child's life, and that something that they deal with for the rest of their life.
It's truly, I think, the darkest part about humanity. And
Mm-hmm.
once I remember I deleted my, I can't remember why I like was looking, I think it was before I came out with this like crazy article I wrote years ago. I knew it was going to give me a lot of attention, and I like scanned my Twitter to see if like there was anything anyone could cancel me for. I'm like, let me see like if what I've said. The worst thing I said, which I still stand behind, is that I said children, like people who molest children, should get sodomized with razors. Mm-hmm. And I still stand behind it.
Yeah.
I think it is absolutely the most heinous fucking thing you could ever fucking do. And people that abuse children need to, if I don't really believe in the electric chair and capital punishment, just because I don't trust the government to like make but if we knew for sure that this person had definitely harmed a child in that way, they should die immediately.
Yeah.
There's no room for them in society.
Yeah. And there's also no fixing them.
There's no fixing them. If you can do that, you will do it again and again and again.
Yes.
And that's just, what do you hope, like, what's your hope for this book?
Is for people for it to help people. Like I literally wrote it for, like I said, survivors, and I wrote it for my 15-year-old self because I was super alone when I was going through everything I was going through. And if I would have had something like this that I could read and know that there was a woman out there who went through a similar thing and actually like was able to find a career and marry like a healthy husband and have, a healthy life. And that doesn't mean that I don't still struggle and I don't have my hard days and all of those things. But if I had that and I knew that it was possible at that age, I think it would have helped me tremendously.
I know we're kind of running out of time, but also something that I thought was interesting was like your ability to like deal with pain, and in a way probably like feeling like it was an emotional release to feel the physical pain, right?
Yes.
Are you still there, or like how does that have you moved past that, or does it still feel good?
I mean,
it's what you do professionally too.
I don't like. I'm kind of starting to retire a little bit.
Well, it's a lot to put your body through.
It's a lot to put your body through, and you know, the business kind of, you kind of outgrow it. As I've like been doing it for 20 years, so it's a long time. But yeah,
now you're an authur. So
yeah, now I'm an author. So
and a doctor,
and a doctor from Harvard. So that's good. But I just haven't seen any checks yet from Harvard, but I'm sure they're coming. Sure they're coming. No, I think that's partially probably why I've stopped kind of doing stunts a little bit is because I do recognize that that's something that is very still present in my body. You know, it's kind of like eating disorders.
Right.
They don't ever fully go away.
Right. That's the thing with like drugs and alcohol. Like I can like just abstain completely, you know, but in terms of like a food issue or something, like people have to learn how to deal with food.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of interesting. Well, I can't wait to finish. I feel like an asshole for not. I literally
you're fine.
I honestly only have one. Like I have 12 pages left.
It's the epilogue, so it's the end. So yeah, it's in the epilogue.
Okay,
which is when we talk about all that stuff.
No wonder. Okay,
yeah. So,
I think that you are. I don't want to like be corny and call you like brave, but you fucking are. Like you really fucking are, and I think you're just like gonna help so many people with this book, and you've helped me just sitting here talking to you, because now I'm gonna go do ecstasy and ketamine and mushrooms and not get naked and jump in a pool.
I'm gonna
heal. I'm gonna work on the healing situation.
Yeah,
and you're gonna give me some recs for that.
I will. Totally.
Next time you're in New York, let's hang out for sure. Come back on the podcast. I would love to have you, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.